Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Battle Through the Heavens based on novel. So let's start. Xiao Yan extended his hand and received the blood-colored crystal body suspended in front of him. A frighteningly dark and cold force spread from his hand. It immediately began to freeze one of Xiao Yan's hands. It is indeed the spring blood crystal. This dark and cold force is really frightening. Xiao Yan nodded joyously after seeing this crystal. He shook his hand and the ice crystal cracked. After which, he put the blood crystals into his storage ring. He looked at that Yao Ming and asked, "How can I rescue you? Do I destroy these 4 metal chains?" "There is no need for that. These metal chains are not the things that restrain me. Instead, it is the yellow spring-yin rock attached to the ends of the chains. There is an endless dark and cold force surging from it that exhausts the do qi within my body, causing me to remain in a weak state. There is an elaborate switch hidden between the metal chain and the mountain body. Once you shatter it, these metal chains will no longer be able to trap me despite being made of a unique material." Yao Ming shook his head and replied, "Oh?" Xiao Yang slightly lifted his eyebrows. He moved and appeared at the end of a metal chain. He saw that the metal chain was indeed deeply inserted into a dark black mountain-like outcropping. This mountain shape was not large. It was only over 100 feet in size, but the dark and cold force contained within it caused Xiao Yang to involuntarily shudder despite having the protection of a heavenly flame. "Is this the yellow spring-yin rock?" Xiao Yang clenched his fist as he looked at the dark black mountain. A vast and mighty do qi surged and ruthlessly smashed into the mountain body. Bang! An enormous water wave spread with a rumble from the spot where Xiao Yang's fist landed. However, that dark black mountain merely trembled. Xiao Yang's punch, which could seriously injure an elite Ban Xing, failed to even leave behind a slight imprint on this rock. The yellow spring-yin rock has been refined by the dark and cold force in the spring for an uncountable number of years. It is extremely hard, possibly even indestructible. Even if I recover my strength, it would still be extremely difficult for me to destroy it." Yao Ming spoke in a hoarse voice after seeing the commotion that Xiao Yang stirred. Xiao Yang slightly knit his brows. He suddenly grabbed a metal chain with his hand and a sizzling white fog was emitted. He quickly removed his hand. A thick white frost had already spread across his palm. The interior of this metal chain seemed to be a void that was filled with a dark and cold force. Only now did he understand why this Yao Ming had been locked in this place for centuries. Yao Ming's shriveled face revealed some disappointment after seeing that Xiao Yang's many attempts were futile. "The things in this 9 serene spring are indeed extraordinary." Xiao Yang shook his head. He ceased doing anything pointless. He curled 2 fingers and an extremely pressurized wisp of his heavenly flame rose. It acted like a needle, as it was gently inserted into the point where the metal chain had been inserted into the mountain body. A long while later, he finally touched an unusually hard circular object. He increased the force from his finger, and the fire needle was ruthlessly inserted into that hard pellet-like object. Crack! The moment the fire needle pierced the pellet, Xiao Yang quickly sensed an unusual ripple that was emitted from the outcropping. That enormous metal chain actually broke apart. He has actually succeeded. Yao Ming, who was feeling a little disappointed in his heart, lifted his head. He looked at Xiao Yang with eyes that were filled with wild joy. While Xiao Yang was breaking Yao Ming's seal, it was extremely lively within a magnificent palace in the underground serene snake network. The leaders of the many snake people tribes had gathered there as their laughter echoed through the large hall. A black-clothed man was seated on the throne within the palace. He appeared quite handsome, but there was a dark chillness which could not be hidden, on his brow. Both of his eyes were slightly shut. A glint flickered in them. His eyes appeared like poisonous snakes that could kill a person in an instant, leaving a chill in one's heart. Two ladies with enchanting figures carefully massaged the man's body, as his large hand continuously roamed over the soft lovely bodies of the two ladies, causing their eyes to appear a little lost. The both of them appeared unusually enchanting. Huh! The shut eyes of the black-clothed man were suddenly opened. A shocked expression was present in his eyes. The seal has been broken. Tribe chief, what is it? An old man, with a completely bright red poisonous snake on his shoulders frowned and asked a question. The seal suppressing Yao Ming has been broken. The black-clothed man suddenly stood up. His expression was dark and cold as a faint voice was transmitted into the elder's ear. What? How is that possible? That elder's face drastically changed after hearing this news. He hurriedly withdrew the emotions on his face as glanced at those elders and leaders of the various tribes within the large hall. After which, he softly said, "You should head over quickly. It will be over for the both of us if Yao Ming manages to escape. I will stabilize the situation here before hurrying over to support you. Relax, he will not be able to rise again." The black-clothed old man sinisterly smiled. After which, his body moved, and he disappeared from the throne. Ha ha, there is an elder who wishes to report something. The tribe chief has gone over to meet him. Everyone, please continue. That elder stood up and smiled. He calmed everyone in the large hall, when they saw the black-clothed man disappear. Clang! Xiao Yan broke the final metal chain seal. After which, he dispersed the fire needle. He waved his sleeve and a gentle force supported Yao Ming, who was about to fall. You have only just managed to escape and the Do Qi within your body is completely exhausted. At this moment, even an expert Do Zone can kill you. Ha ha, it is unexpected that I, Yao Ming, can really endure until this day. Young friend, may I know your name? Yao Ming's body was extremely weak. Clearly, he was extremely excited. His eyes landed on Xiao Yan as he laughed. Xiao Yan. Young friend Xiao Yan, I, Yao Ming, will never forget how you have rescued me. As long as I am able to get my revenge, I will use the strength of the entire 9 serene deep-ground python tribe to help fulfill any request you make. Yao Ming's eyes stared intently at Xiao Yan as he spoke in a deep voice. Xiao Yan smiled upon hearing this offer. He could sense the extremely dense gratitude in Yao Ming's words. Although this gratitude was a result of his hatred for Yao Xiaotian, this person was not the type who would harm someone who had helped him. Xiao Yan sighed in relief after determining this person's character. He flicked his finger, and a medicinal bottle flew toward Yao Ming. He said, "Consume some medicinal pills to recover your Do Qi first. We cannot remain for too long here. Let's quickly leave this 9 serene spring. We will go and find trouble with Yao Xiaotian, after you regain your strength." I, young friend Xiao Yang is right. Yao Ming nodded and unceremoniously swallowed the bottle of medicinal pills into his stomach. He understood that it was impossible for him to be a match for Yao Xiaotian in his current condition. Let's go. Xiao Yang waved his sleeve after having rescued Yao Ming. After which, both of them turned into 2 water arrows that shot up with lightning-like speed. Since Xiao Yang had stayed within the 9 serene spring for quite a long while, he had exhausted a significant part of the Do Qi within his body. Hence, he swiftly took out a couple of medicinal pills and stuffed them into his mouth as a precaution, while he hurried out of the spring. Xiao Yang ended up meeting those endless number of strange snakes on the way back. Fortunately, Yao Ming seemed to possess a method to control them. All of the strange snakes fled into the distance after he emitted a strange sound, and Xiao Yang avoided the trouble of fighting with these strange snakes. Xiao Yan and Yao Ming's speed increased significantly in the absence of any obstruction. Within less than 10 minutes, he saw some light in the distance and sighed in relief. Xiao Yan waved his sleeve and suddenly sped up. "We are about to exit." Xiao Yang smiled as he traveled closer to the surface of the lake. His body shook as he grabbed Yao Ming. They broke through the surface of the water and landed on the lake. Bang! A muffled sound was suddenly emitted from the air above after Xiao Yang stabilized his body. A figure fell from the sky as the sharp sound of rushing wind continuously appeared. Cai Lin. Xiao Yang's expression changed after seeing that figure. He waved his sleeve and a gentle force surged out. This force received her before Xiao Yang grabbed with his hand and pulled Cai Lin beside him. "You have finally come out." Cai Lin sighed in relief after landing beside Xiao Yang. Her hand hurriedly rubbed away the blood on the corner of her mouth. Xiao Yang's eyes became cold after seeing the trace of blood on the corner of Cai Lin's mouth. He did not open his mouth to ask anything. Instead, he slowly lifted his head. There was a black-clothed person suspended in the air. The black-clothes person was looking at Xiao Yang with an unusually dark and vicious pair of eyes. This person suddenly arrived and dragged the three of us out. Qing Lin and the little fairy doctor have been wounded by him. Cai Lin clenched her teeth as she spoke. Xiao Yang looked at a spot a short distance from the spring. Both Qing Lin's and the little fairy doctor's auras were a little chaotic. They had both suffered a serious injury. His eyes became even icy. That black-clothed man in the sky looked at Xiao Yang and the skeleton-like Yao Ming with an extremely dense eyes. A vicious smile surfaced on his face. "Little bastard, since you dare to spoil my plans, this king shall bury you in this spring regardless of where you come from. This king will help you take care of these three beauties. This is the price that you will have to pay for your recklessness. Yao Xiaotian, you old bastard. Today, I will tear you into tens of thousands of pieces and throw you into the 10,000 snake cave." Yao Ming's eyes turned blood red as he glared at the black-clothed person in the sky. An endless viciousness shot of his eyes as his roar reverberated through this deep abyss. TSK, my good big brother. It is unexpected that you have survived. However, the current you cannot even block one strike from me. You can rest assured that I will not give you a chance to struggle this time around. The man in the sky laughed in a wicked manner after hearing Yao Ming's vicious roar. Xiao Yang was expressionless after hearing the conversation between the two brothers. That Yao Xiaotian should be an intermediate level 1-star Do Xing. He was a little stronger than Xiao Yang. There was no need to doubt the strength of this Yao Xiaotian, since he was able to become the tribal chief of the 9 serene deep-ground python tribe. Rat, regardless of how you managed to sneak into my underground serene snake network, this underground world is the territory of my 9 serene deep-ground python. You have nearly ruined my plans. Hence, this king will throw you and that cripple into the 10,000 snake cave. Yao Xiaotian's eyes were extremely ruthless as he stared at Xiao Yang. If he had not left a spiritual imprint within the seal, Xiao Yang would have successfully rescued Yao Ming in secret. Once Yao Ming recovered his strength, he would definitely snatch the position of the tribal chief. At that time, there would be another round of trouble. You should try to recover your Do Qi as soon as possible. Leave this fellow to me. Xiao Yang did not react much as he looked at Yao Xiaotian's sinister eyes. He waved his sleeve and a gentle force delivered Yao Ming to the side of the lake while he spoke in a faint voice. Be careful. This fellow currently possesses the strength of an intermediate level 1-star Do Xing. Moreover, he has also practiced many of the ultimate skills of my 9 serene deep-ground python tribe. It is not easy to deal with him. Yao Ming warned. Currently, the most important thing that he needed to do was to quickly recover his Do Qi. Yao Xiaotian was afraid of Yao Ming, so he would not turn this into a big matter. However, he had definitely accumulated his own supporters after all these years. Even though other elders might not dare to intervene, because of Yao Ming's identity, Yao Xiaotian's cronies would without a doubt obey his orders. Xiao Yang nodded. He took out 2 jade bottles and tossed them to Yao Ming and Cai Lin. He stepped on the surface of the lake and a circular ripple was formed. His body appeared a short distance in front of Yao Xiaotian. After which, he looked at Yao Xintian and said, "This is the first time that I have fought against an elite Do Xing of the same level after having advanced to the Do Xing class. Relax, this 9 serene spring can be considered a good place. Consider yourself fortunate to die here." Yao Xiaotian laughed in a strange manner. "It is likely that you are quite talented to reach the Do Xing class at such a young age. However, you should never have gotten involved with this cripple. Since you have done so, no one will be able to rescue you today." Xiao Yang smiled in a non-committal manner. "This king does not wish to know your name. Today, you can peacefully die here." The smile on Yao Xiaotian's face slowly disappeared. His eyes were vile as they stared at Xiao Yang like poisonous snakes. His body shook abruptly as a monstrous wicked aura suddenly surged out of his body. The entire cave trembled. An energy lightning formed a 10,000-foot large palm in the air above him from all directions. An extremely dark and cold force was contained within this large palm. "Die." That large hand suddenly fell after this word sounded. A frightening force shook the space around Xiao Yang until it crumbled. "You have really overestimated yourself." Xiao Yang lifted his head. He looked at the palm, which was rapidly being magnified in his eyes, and smiled. He swung his sleeve and a hot flame surged into all directions, turning the space around him into a sea of fire in an instant. This flame lingered around the large hand, and its frightening temperature swiftly caused the hand to emit a dense, white fog. Heavenly flame. Yao Xiaotian slightly knit his brows after seeing the sea of flames vaporize his energy palm. He let out a cold snort and both of his hands formed many complicated hand seals with lightning-like speed. The energy above the lake once again gathered after those hand seals had formed. Yellow spring finger. The energy gathered in a mighty manner. It swiftly gathered into a deep yellow finger that was a couple 1,000 feet long. The finger was under Yap Xiaotian's control. The surface of this finger was extremely rough, but it was filled with a faint destructive force. It looked just like a sky-supporting pillar that stood between the sky and the land if one saw it from a distance. A yellow spring finger deciding life and death. Yao Xiaotian coldly laughed as he looked at Xiao Yang below. He suddenly pressed his finger down. That enormous yellow spring finger in the sky rumbled and rushed down as well. The entire ceiling crumbled as the surrounding walls of the deep abyss were blasted apart, forming an enormous crack. This attack shook the land and mountains, appearing as though an earthquake had occurred. Tian class Do skill, her. Surprise flashed across Xiao Yang's eyes as he felt the pressure from this yellow spring finger. The Qian class Do skill unleashed by an elite Do Xing could easily destroy an entire city. How arrogant. You do not have that ability. Xiao Yang's foot stepped forward as a vast and mighty Do Qi swiftly gathered on his right hand. A black light erupted almost instantly. Within a couple of blinks, it had turned into a couple 1,000-foot large black light sphere. This was the first time Xiao Yang had used the Great Heaven Creation Palm, after advancing to the Do Xing class. Its might and aura had undoubtedly soared 100 times from before. Buzz buzz. The black light sphere formed and unleashed a frightening suction force. The surrounding abyss cracked apart. Large rocks continued to fall before they were absorbed by the light sphere and disappeared. Great heaven creation palm, destroy it. Xiao Yan lifted his head. He flicked his finger and the enormous black light sphere rushed up. It swiftly appeared where the yellow spring finger was located before it suddenly began to wildly rotate. Crack crack. The yellow finger pressed against the black-colored light sphere. A frightening energy swept across the abyss like a storm. Rumble. Black light wildly rotated as wave after wave of destructive forces spread apart. That yellow spring finger was dragged into the black light 10 feet at a time. Finally, yellow spring finger was swallowed by the black light sphere in front of Yao Xiaotian's shocked and furious eyes. Rat, I have underestimated you. A grave expression flashed across Yao Xiaotian's eyes after seeing the yellow spring finger break. His body swayed and a cold dou qi surged out of his body in all directions. His body also began to suddenly swell at this moment. In the blink of an eye, he had transformed into a 10,000-foot-long black snake. A monstrous ferocity radiated from the snake's body. He appeared just like an evil god that had descended. Sealing skill, yellow spring great seal. Yao Xiaotian furiously roared at the ceiling after transforming into his actual snake form. A frightening dark and cold force suddenly erupted from the 9 serene spring below as he roared. Under Yao Tianxiao's control, this dark and cold force along with his own monstrous dou qi formed a black mountain-like seal. That seal was covered with numerous mysterious symbols. Xiao Yang, be careful. That is one of the key dou skills of the 9 serene deep-ground python tribe. It is a Qian-class middle-level dou skill. If you are suppressed by it, you will be sealed within the 9 serene spring. Back then, I was struck by this skill and ended up suffering for hundreds of years. Yao Ming's warning sounded beside Xiao Yang's ear after this giant seal appeared. Rat, go and die. Yao Xiaotian loudly laughed after seeing this giant seal form. He swung his huge tail and the black giant seal suddenly turned. It shot toward Xiao Yang, and a strength that was indescribably dark and cold caused the surrounding space to become vicious. Suppress. The black giant seal trembled as this cry sounded. The seal penetrated space and arrived above Xiao Yang's head in a flash. Finally, it abruptly fell and ruthlessly smashed into the 9 serene spring. Bang bang. The black giant seal landed on the surface of the lake and many large water pillars shot out as a frightening circular ripple spread. Any object within this deep abyss was flattened in an instant. Ha ha. The giant snake that Yao Xiaotian had transformed into suddenly laughed after seeing this destruction. With the help of the dark and cold force within the 9 serene spring, his seal would immediately restrict the dou qi within the target's body even if the other party was also an intermediate level 1-star dou sheng. Even less needed to be said for Xiao Yang, who was a little weaker than him. This is bad. Yao Ming, who was recovering his dou qi, felt his heart sink after seeing the seal form. Bang. However, Yao Xiaotian's laughter had just appeared when the giant black seal pressing against the 9 serene spring violently trembled. A loud sound appeared a moment later. That giant seal was shaken until it flew backwards. What? Yao Xiaotian was immediately shocked upon seeing the seal get knocked back. You are not qualified to suppress me. Bam. The 9 serene spring was suddenly blasted apart after this thunder-like laugh was emitted. A bright golden light erupted like a sun. In a flash, it appeared above Yao Xiaotian's head. The large golden hand contained a 4-colored fire lotus rotating above it. After which, the hand furiously slammed down and mercilessly struck the head of that enormous snake. Boom. The fire lotus exploded upon contact. That destructive force was slammed into Yao Xiaotian's body by the frightening strength of the golden hand. Yao Xiaotian's huge body appeared as though it had swallowed a countless number of thunderbolts, as a rumbling sound continuously appeared. Blood that contained some heat exploded out of his body. Bang! Then Yao Xiaotian's body flew back, and finally crashed into a mountain wall. He shattered it into dust. A, B, C. Kai. A golden light flickered as giant golden figure descended and ruthlessly stepped on Yao Xiaotian's enormous snake body. It swung its giant fist and ruthlessly smashed it down. The heavenly flame strength surrounding the fist caused Yao Xiaotian to emit a miserable cry. Bastard, you dare to behave atrociously in this my 9 serene deep ground python's territory. Serene snake guards, capture this person. A furious roar suddenly sounded in the sky, while Xiao Yan was preparing to smash this fellow to death. A countless number of sounds of rushing wind were emitted from the entire mountain range. Wave after wave of powerful auras erupted. Clearly, the battle between Xiao Yan and Yao Xiaotian had attracted the attention of the entire 9 serene deep ground python tribe. How the fuck is there a mountain in an abyss? Isn't a tunnel above the abyss as well? Can I just change mountain into wall? B, okay, let's change that. C, I think the author forgot that they were in the abyss and how he had described it. Later on it appears to just be a hole in the ground that opens to outside world, even though he first described it as an underground network of tunnels that led to the spring. Xiao Yang slowly withdrew his fist after hearing the furious roar that resounded from above, but both of his feet continued to ruthlessly step on Yao Xiaotian's body. Heavenly flame spread over his feet, as they were coincidentally pressed on a spot around 7 inches from the middle of the snake's body. This was the fatal spot of the snake clan. If it was struck, even an elite Do Xing would end up suffering. Xiao Yang lifted his head. He looked at the sky, only to find that the sky was currently filled with many experts from the 9 serene deep ground python tribe. These people were glaring at him with furious eyes. Regardless of how one put it, the 9 serene deep ground python tribe was one of the 3 largest tribes in the magical beast world. At this moment, this person had not only snuck into their territory, he had even beaten up their chief. No one would be able to endure this humiliation. Rat, who are you? You actually dare to act wildly within the territory of my 9 serene deep ground python tribe. An old man, with a completely bright red poisonous snake on his shoulder stood in the sky. His eyes were ruthlessly staring at Xiao Yang as he cried out. He glanced at the giant black snake under the golden giant, Xiao Yang, after letting out a cold cry. His heart shook slightly. It was unexpected that Yao Xiaotian would be suppressed to such an extent by this unknown person despite his strength. We must restrain him today, regardless of who he is. Otherwise, how will our 9 serene deep ground python tribe survive in the magical beast world if this matter spreads? A gray-haired old man beside the elder furiously cried out. Serene snake guards, listen up. Capture this person. The gray-haired old man angrily ordered them to act. Understood. An orderly response was emitted after the old man's furious cry was heard. The sound of wind splitting could be heard. Numerous figures with snake-shape armor rushed out of the various mountains. They appeared around Xiao Yang within a couple of flashes. The many auras all locked onto him. The foundation of this 9 serene deep ground python is indeed quite strong. These serene snake guards all possess an extremely powerful aura. Moreover, their movement seems to suggest a perfect cooperation. Xiao Yang's eyes swept over the 100 serene snake guards and a surprise flashed across his heart. This elite army was something that the Sky Mansion Alliance did not possess. Bang! A force suddenly erupted from Yao Xiaotian's body under Xiao Yang's feet, while Xiao Yang's heart was feeling surprised. Yao Xiaotian forcefully escaped Xiao Yan's restraints and hurried to the sky in a somewhat miserable manner. Both of his eyes were blood red as he looked at Xiao Yan and roared, "All elders, listen up. Create the 10,000 snake ground formation. Kill this fellow." The many elders in the sky were slightly startled after hearing Yao Xiaotian's roar, but they quickly voiced their acknowledgement in respectful tones. The sound of rushing wind appeared. These elders with great strength spread apart in the sky. They formed a mysterious formation that trapped Xiao Yang inside. Xiao Yang frowned slightly after seeing these elders intervene. Even a hero would not be able to fight against so many alone. This was the headquarters of the 9 serene deep-ground python tribe. It would be a little difficult for him to block these continuous attacks. After all, that Yao Xiaotian and the elder with a bright red snake on his shoulder were all genuine Doshings. The leaders from the various tribes, please head back. Allow me to resolve this matter personally. Yao Xiaotian's eyes flickered after trapping Xiao Yang. He suddenly turned his head and spoke in a deep voice to the leaders of the various tribes a short distance away. The leaders from the various tribes hesitated for a moment after hearing these words, but they slowly nodded, not daring to disobey the orders of the tribal chief. He, Yao Xiaotian, are you planning to get rid of me without anyone knowing after chasing these leaders of the various tribes away? However, a cold laugh suddenly sounded after Yao Xiaotian cried out. A figure rushed out and appeared in the air. The figure that had appeared was naturally Yao Ming, who had been rescued from the 9 serene spring by Xiao Yang. However, his body was no longer shriveled. Instead, it had become much larger. His face was a little dark as a sinister aura spread while his eyes flickered. The many members of the 9 serene deep-ground python tribe were stunned after seeing Yao Ming's face, which was a little similar to Yao Xiaotian's face. Some of the elders finally cried out in disbelief a moment later. Tribal Chief Yao Ming. How is it possible? Didn't you die after your training went wrong? Tribal Chief Yao Ming. It seems like he is Tribal Chief Xiaotian's brother, the previous Tribal Chief, but Tribal Chief Xiaotian had said that he had died after something went wrong with his training. He has already been missing for hundreds of years. How can he appear again? Yao Xiaotian's face twitched after hearing the many conversations that popped up all over. His eyes shifted to that elder with a bright red snake on his shoulder. Suddenly, he cried out in a cold voice, "Be quiet. Do not be deceived by this person. This person is definitely that other fellow's accomplice. He has purposefully disguised himself as my big brother in order to cause unrest in our tribe. All elders, why aren't you activating the formation? Kill him." Those elders were startled after hearing Yao Xiaotian's command, but they were a little hesitant to attack. Ha ha, Yao Xiaotian, are you so anxious to silence me? Yao Ming laughed at the sky. After which, his eyes swept over a couple of elders, Elder Xian, Elder Ming, Elder Liu, the 3 of you were closest to me back then. Don't tell me that even you cannot recognize me. Those 3 white-haired elders swept their eyes over Yao Ming after hearing his laugh. Some excitement rose on their faces as they said, he really seems to be Tribal Chief Yao Ming. The 3 of us are quite familiar with his aura. Ming Kang, the 3 of you should not cause confusion within the tribe. Currently, the tribal chief of the 9 serene deep-ground python tribe is Yao Xiaotian. Are you attempting to betray the tribe? The elder with a bright red snake on his shoulder glared at the 3 of them with sinister eyes as he coldly questioned them. First elder, this is really Tribal Chief Yao Ming. Is there some misunderstanding here? The 3 elders hurriedly replied. There is no misunderstanding. Back then, the reason I disappeared was precisely because of this good brother of mine and the first elder. They had joined hands to poison and injure me. They even sealed me at the bottom of the 9 serene spring. If I had not been rescued this time around, I would have spent my entire life sealed under the 9 serene spring. They found out that I escaped today, and naturally need to quickly silence me. Yao Ming faintly laughed. What? Yao Ming's words were undoubtedly like thunder, as they exploded in everyone's ears. All pairs of eyes gathered on Yao Xiaotian and the First Elder. First Elder, is what tribal chief Yao Ming said true? Some of the elders immediately cried out. This person is a fake. Can you trust his words? The grey-robed First Elder replied in a sinister voice. He quickly waved his sleeve and continued in a dense voice, in that case, this elderless elf shall personally capture him. I will get him to speak the truth and hold him accountable to everyone. The First Elder's body suddenly disappeared after his words rang out. He was already in front of Yao Ming when he appeared. His shriveled hands had become incomparably black, as an intense stench spread from them. Withered leaf, great poison palm. First Elder, you are really quick in your attempt to silence him. Wind had just risen from the First Elder's palm, when a loud laugh sounded from below and a golden light surged. The enormous golden human figure appeared in between Yao Ming and the First Elder. The golden light surged and violently collided with the First Elder. Clang! An energy hurricane swept out as the two collided. The energy shook the large mountains below until they began to crack apart. The First Elder took 2 steps back after this collision. His eyes were gloomy as he glared at the golden human figure in front of Yao Ming. A ferocious expression appeared on his face. Brat, you are seeking death. HMPH, First Elder, you seem to be even more anxious. Yao Ming took a step forward. His eyes were dark and cold as he glared at the First Elder. He suddenly widened his mouth. A black light shot out and turned into a 5-foot-long scepter. This scepter was completely black, with 2 lifelike poisonous snakes twisting at the top. A fist-sized black bead was present between the 2 snakes. It emitted a faint cold glow. All elders, do you still recognize this thing? The 9 serene profound scepter. It is actually the 9 serene profound scepter that has been lost for hundreds of years. It is the keepsake of the tribal chief. The expressions of all the elders in the sky drastically changed after seeing that black scepter appear. A wild heat surged within their eyes. They could feel a pressure from within their blood that originated from the scepter. It was rumored that the snake bead on the 9 serene profound scepter possessed an extremely pure 9 serene king tribe bloodline. If the current 9 serene deep ground serpent tribe could obtain this bloodline, it would undoubtedly allow them to greatly extend the rate at which their blood was thinning. No wonder I was unable to find the 9 serene profound scepter no matter where I searched. It had been swallowed into your stomach. Yao Xiaotian's expression was extremely gloomy as he looked at Yao Ming. His fists were tightly clenched. All elders, we must not only hear one side of the story. Everyone is aware of how the 9 serene deep ground python tribe is under the leadership of tribal chief Xiaotian. Even though Yao Ming is the previous tribal chief, he was appointed in the past. If he is willing to hand over the 9 serene profound scepter, he will have a place in this 9 serene deep ground python tribe in the future. The First Elder rulously glared at Xiao Yan as he opened his mouth and cried out. That's right, Tribal Chief Yao Ming, you should hand over the 9 serene profound scepter to Tribal Chief Xiaotian. Some of the elders also opened their mouths and spoke at this moment. They were Yao Xiaotian's cronies. Naturally, they understood who they should help at this moment. Yao Ming coldly smiled upon hearing these elders' words. First Elder is wrong. Whoever possesses the 9 serene profound scepter is the tribal chief of our 9 serene deep ground python tribe. This has been the rule of our tribe across every generations. When we allowed Yao Xiaotian to be the tribal chief back then, we agreed that it was only temporarily. Moreover, All of you also agreed that you would return the position of the tribal chief to Tribal Chief Yao Ming if he returns. Those three elders, who had been named by Yao Ming earlier, faced each other before speaking at the same time. None of them were ordinary people. They could guess the truth of the matter. The three elders are right. There were clearly many people supporting Yao Ming among these elders. Hence, some voices of agreement appeared. Bastard, go and die. Yao Xiaotian's and the first elder's expression turned slightly cold after hearing these words. They exchanged glances and the two of them rushed out at the same time. They appeared in front of Xiao Yan in a flash. A frightening wind swept apart as they ruthlessly attacked Xiao Yan. It seemed that they wished to use a blitzkrieg tactic to finish off Xiao Yan and Yao Ming. Only then would they be able to stabilize the situation. The two Doshings attacked at the same time. That momentum could be called earth-shaking. This video will end here.